What up, my plant-based crew? So today we want to talk about is different types of training methods to help us optimize our vegan gains and hopefully kind of give you an idea to switch things up in your training. So before we dive into different types of training, is covering 6 main principles that we adhere to ensure that we have a good workout. So those are intensity, volume, tempo, rest, frequency, and last but not least, diet. So what I'm going to then talk about regarding to the training methods will evolve around those 6 principles to ensure that we optimize those methods basically. So first training method, which I believe is king, is compound exercises or compound workouts. That would consist training that involves more than one muscle group at a time. So for example, squats, deadlifts, bench press, push-ups, pull-ups. Those are all compound exercises that allows us to train more than one muscle group. And for newbies, they will definitely gain a lot more results from that. Moving on, we have plyometric, which is basically explosive movements, stuff like box jumps, high knees, burpees, jumping squats, jumping lunges, and so forth. Anything that requires you to do like a substantial movement is a plyometric movement basically, and that really helps us to fire up our type 2 muscle fibers, which is basically explosiveness or fast movements, compared to type 1 muscle fibers, which is essentially more of a slow twitch muscle fiber, which is like cardio exercise that we do, running, walking, cycling, etc. Thirdly, we have supersets, trisets, and giant sets. Those are quite of a common method that people use at the gym. So basically exercises that we apply, we group multiple exercises at the same time with no rest. So for example, if we're doing biceps, we'll do tricep curls with dumbbells, followed by straight away after 10 reps, we'll follow it by cable pulls, which is another bicep exercise, and then followed by another exercise perhaps if you want to do a third exercise, and those basically help us to emphasize a lot more variations in particular muscle groups. Then we have pyramid. Pyramid is quite an advanced, or I would say intermediate training method that we use for really focusing and destroying that particular muscle that we're working on that day. So for example, if we're doing leg day, for example, and we're doing squats, we can essentially do a pyramid method where we start off low and we build up to our 75 or 80% threshold, and then we work back downwards. So you could essentially do 6 sets, for example, and you start off with 40 kilos, then 60, then 80, then 100, then you work your way back down and go 100, 80, 60, 40. And that will be your legs done basically. Moving on, we have clear the rack. Clear the rack is quite of a bodybuilding sort of training method where we would start on heavier weight and then we work our way down until fail basically. So we'll start on, for example, 20 kilos on the shoulder press, and then we work our way down to 18, and then 16, and then 15, and then 12, 10, 8, and so forth until we basically obliterate our shoulders basically, and there's no rest in between. The rest is probably just between of you switching your weights. And then we have variations of targeting. So again, using like biceps and triceps workout that people tend to do most of the time at the gym. A lot of people tend to focus on doing, for example, bicep curls. But instead of just doing bicep curls, you can actually switch it up and do preacher curls instead with both arms, or you can use cable pulls, and last but not least, also you can switch it up by doing pull-ups by going underarm, so then it works on biceps. Moving on, we have drop sets. Drop sets is essentially doing the same exercise but with different weights. So we, again, if we're doing tricep pull downs, we can start off, for example, 17 kilos. Once I'm finished doing the same repetition of 8 to 10, I then go down to weights to 12, for example, and then follow on, do another 8. to 10 reps until basically we exhaust that muscle. And then lastly, we have circuits, which could encompass HIIT, which is high intensity interval training, a WOD, which is like a workout of the day, which is a mixture of like a full body workout, and then an AMRAP, which is as many reps as possible. So all three of those sort of training methodologies are a full body workout that allows us to work on all of our muscles. So depending what sort of you're like a CrossFitter or weightlifter, powerlifting, etc., you would choose your training methods accordingly. All of those training methods I mentioned will fall under those same 6 principles. So depending on what training method we choose, we have to apply the relevant intensity to ensure that we are working heavily enough on our muscle group, the volume that we're doing, so reps and sets that we're applying in our workout, ensuring that we're applying enough reps to exhaust that muscle for it to be able to adapt and grow. Tempo, which is the speed or the time and tension that we apply to our exercising. So for example, we have pull-ups. Pull-ups we can do very quickly. But at the same time, if I tell you to slow it down and say pause at the top for 2 seconds and then pause at the bottom for 2 seconds and then come up, that will make the exercise a lot harder and applies a lot more tension to your muscle when you're doing your pull-ups. That way it's more effective. Rest, which is how long we're resting in between our sets. So if you're working towards more of a strength base, then you would have a longer rest period between your squats, for example, or your deadlifts. So you'll rest between 3 to even 5 minutes, perhaps, because the idea is to be able to lift as heavy as possible with your heavy load, versus if you're trying to build more muscle, which is more of a hypertrophy method, you would then follow more of a shorter rest period, which is generally around 60 to 90 seconds. And then fifth, which is the frequency, which is how often we train, which will determine how effective our gains or results are. So generally people tend to train 3 days a week. It could be a split of Monday, Wednesday and Friday, or if you actually become more active, you can actually have more of a split of 1 day on, 1 day off. So you'll have Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday, and then every other day you can rest in between. Then you have also another split where you have 3 days on, 1 day off, and 3 days on. So depending on what your availability is like for training, that will be your frequency pattern. And then last but not least is your diet. Diet perhaps might not fall into the training methods I mentioned. However, it's a key element in our gains, our muscle gains, because you could have the best or the master program in building muscles. However, if your diet is poor and you're eating junk all the time, then your gains would almost be minimal. It's important that we nourish our body with quality macros to ensure that we maximize our growth, not just growth, but also our recovery. The quality of our food will essentially promote our recovery time and, most importantly, the inflammation that we build up from training. Hope this has been helpful to you guys.